Are you ready for bold moves and brilliant leadership? Welcome to the Bold and Brilliant podcast, where powerful women share the decisions that changed everything. Today's guest is Lia Allen, entrepreneur, community builder, and high energy leader with over 30 years experience turning vision into thriving businesses. Lia leads with heart, faith, and presence. And in this episode, she shares the bold decision that shaped what came next. Get ready to be inspired. Welcome, Lia, to the Bold and Brilliant podcast. Lia, I am so excited that you're on the podcast. Welcome to the party.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here.
Awesome. Well, you and I, we've done a lot of these kind of conversational interviews, whether they were 5 minutes or 20 minutes or just chit-chatting. Over these last few years. You joined us in our Gather community as a VIP, kind of checking us out, decided that you wanted more and that you saw a way that the connections that we were making could help your business. So you joined as a creator. And, here we are years later now. It's hard to believe, but also, of course, right? It just makes sense that we're connected for all of this time, even though it's hard to believe it's been so long. So I'm super excited to bring you and your story to a whole new audience, because what I know about you and the way that you show up is that you're memorable. People notice because you are super active on social media. You're out there telling your story. You're networking all the time. In fact, that's what you help other people do. And so I'm hoping that this will reach a few people who haven't met Lia Allen. Are you ready for bold moves and brilliant leadership? Welcome to the Bold and Brilliant podcast, where powerful women share the decisions that changed everything. Today's guest is Lia Allen, entrepreneur, community builder, and high energy leader with over 30 years experience turning vision into thriving businesses. Lia leads with heart, faith, and presence. And in this episode, she shares the bold decision that shaped what came next. Get ready to be inspired. Welcome, Lia, to the Bold and Brilliant podcast. Yeah, so let's start back in the beginning and give us some background. I know that you came from a corporate background. You've been in business for yourself for a long time, but take us back to the beginning and give us a little Lia origin story.
Okay, great. Well, I like to tell people I'm somewhat of an immigrant. I was born in South America and our family moved from Colombia to the United States. I was raised in a very loving household and life was a little crazy. There was a lot of chaos growing up at some point. But you know what? We all overcome the challenges we have in our life and you learn to move through that. I worked in corporate for a long time. I lived in the Bronx and worked in Manhattan. So I did investment banking firms and manufacturing. I worked for a large, what do you call it? They make clothes. They did the fabric.
Oh,
So
okay.
manufacturing. And so I worked through that. Then I ended up in the nonprofit sector, loved my time in the nonprofit sector.
What was the job that you were doing at these different companies? What department were you in?
I typically was the administrative assistant and executive assistant. I always had something to do with administration. So I got skills and then I used my skills. And what was interesting is always in every one of my jobs, I always moved up because my brain I always wanted more. I got bored really easily. So I was always asking for more responsibility and taking things to the next level. I was never satisfied with whatever job it was that I had.
Yeah.
So that was kind of my makeup. That's how I did it. So I ended up in the nonprofit sector and we moved to Pennsylvania and I moved from the one nonprofit to the same nonprofit in Pennsylvania. And that's when kind of life started to really take a turn.
Okay, before we find out about that turn, I want to say that that's why we get along so well, because we had like that innate ambition that just meant that you knew you could do more, you were capable of more, you wanted to do more because more was exciting, and like, why would you want to just keep doing the same old thing?
Exactly.
So no wonder we get along so well.
Yeah.
That's exactly how I am.
Exactly. It was fun.
All right. So, okay, well, let's just go right into, you said that life started to take a turn. What do you mean?
Well, so I always knew that there was more for me, and I was always looking for that. And then I was working in the nonprofit sector, and I was actually the assistant to the president of an organization. And it became a very toxic work environment, is the best way to explain it. I literally was physically ill from the job. I was having to use my inhaler because I was having asthma attacks. The stress was really high. And I knew that I couldn't change the situation, so I had to change me.
Yeah.
And so I
Get out.
chose, yeah, so I chose to leave that job. Initially, I took a lower paying job just to get out, just to get safe and to
Yeah.
heal a little bit. And as I was doing that for about 6 months, I realized I needed more. And that's when I decided to start my own business.
Okay.
And so I jumped. I mean, I jumped right in. I got a computer. I mean, I started small. I had a computer and I started typing papers and working with small businesses to do transcription, and I loved it. But again, I kept growing my skills, if you will, and I kept moving. And I went from typing and being a virtual assistant, which back then they called it a secretarial service,
Right.
to becoming a business consultant because I started working with the business owners and helping them decide what to outsource and how to outsource. And I became more that consultant.
Yeah. So when you left that nonprofit, was it that the company was doing bad things, or was like a relationship like with your boss or with other coworkers, like one-on-one relationship problems?
Yeah, there was a relationship with my boss. So my old boss who loved me, we had a great relationship, and then he left, and then
He
a new
left.
boss came in.
Got
And
it.
I think I was part of the old regime, so
Sure.
he wanted to clean house, which I totally get, but he couldn't just let go of me, so he just decided to make my life not very happy.
Boo. Yeah, and unfortunately that's a story that, we have heard over and over, and it's not anything that we would wish on anyone for sure. I was just curious if it was like a values alignment with the company that became a problem, but really it was like that day-to-day
Yeah,
nitpicky, pokey, like, ugh.
it was like I could do no right.
Yeah, that's
So
no
I
good.
just did, and I realized that I couldn't change him, and I
Yeah.
wasn't gonna, and
Yeah,
there was nothing I
you
was
made the
doing
right choice.
wrong. So it was time to leave. It was just a
Absolutely.
simple decision.
Well, and what's so great about your nature of knowing that you are ambitious, that you can move forward and go after new things and try new things, that you're adventurous,
Mhm.
people who are not adventurous would really struggle with making that choice because making change is scary.
Mhm.
But when change is exciting, it's a lot easier to stand up for what you need for your, I think.
Yeah,
And I
oh,
think that's,
absolutely.
yeah, that's probably, again, why both of us kind of can embrace that change is good philosophy, not change just for change's sake, but in that growth perspective. So, okay, so I love this for you because that makes me so happy that you were able to see that it was the right move for you and you just took it.
Yeah.
Right. That's similar to when I left corporate. I was just like, you know what? I want to make this change. And
Mhm.
I didn't plan ahead and have all this money saved up and like all the things they tell you before you leave corporate and start
Mhm.
working for yours. I didn't do any of that. I just left because I knew that it was the right thing and I knew that I could succeed eventually doing something. And
Exactly.
hopefully it was what I was doing was on the right path. So it sounds like you had a similar
Yeah.
feel.
And I
Over,
became really resourceful.
yeah.
When I left the job, I had no health insurance, which was a little scary for
Yeah.
me.
Same.
So I ended up finding a part-time job that working nights from 5 to midnight that gave me health insurance.
Mm,
So I worked all day on my business. I worked from 5 to midnight on a job that gave me health insurance because you do what you got to do to make it, right?
right.
And it didn't take me long to that our business was growing fast enough that I didn't need to do that anymore. But I had to make that sacrifice.
Yeah, I love that. I love that you started with the transcription, secretarial service, whatever, because it lines up with Paula so nicely too.
Yeah.
Paula Allen, of course, who anyone who's listening to this, you may also know her, no relation.
Mhm.
But there's such that tie-in. So again, no wonder, there's
Mhm.
a camaraderie there and a common kind of history. Okay, so and how old were your kids at this point?
So I have now a 26-year-old and a 23-year-old. And that is actually another part of the bold, you talk
Yeah,
about bold action and
yeah,
taking
yeah.
action. So when my son was 6 years old, he became very ill, and we had to make a choice. And one of the choices was to take care of him. We had to pull him out of school, and I chose to homeschool both my boys at that time. So I had a thriving business. I actually had a meeting. I had an actual office with a conference room. And I was like, okay, shifting gears again. It's all about just, all right,
So
that's
when you left the corporate job and started your business,
Mhm.
did you not have them yet? Was that before they were
No,
born?
no, I didn't have,
Okay.
well, actually,
Wow.
I had, no, I didn't have them. I had them afterwards. Yes. That now that I think back on it, because I remember taking my oldest son to chamber of board meetings, and I sat him on the desk next to me in his little car seat while we had, because I was on the executive committee of the
Yeah.
Chamber of Commerce. So, you do what you got to
I
do.
love that. No, I love that. Especially, yeah, we call that baby in a bucket. Take the
Yep, yep.
baby in
So
a
he was
bucket with you wherever
portable.
you go.
I took him with me, and people, respected me that I had to do that. And so when I chose to homeschool, of course, I had to pivot the business a bit.
Right.
And so I just learned I sold off part of the business that I knew I couldn't do on a regular basis. And I
Yeah.
just kept the clients that I could work with. And then they understood my story about how much time I had. And
Yeah.
so I scaled it down at that point, and that worked fine for what we needed.
Yeah. Well, and because homeschooling two kids and running your
Mhm.
household, partner, all those things, that's also a full-time job, as all of
Mhm.
us know, those of us who have families and kids. And so to keep your business going, I think is actually commendable at all, right?
Mhm.
The fact that you did like revamp it to fit
Yeah.
what your life would allow, as opposed to just letting it go, because you probably, my guess is that you knew that you needed that to keep yourself excited and motivated as like a grown-up,
Yeah,
right?
I did. Well, and it was so much a part of who I was.
Yeah.
To just shut it off would not have worked. I just couldn't. And the other thing was, I also knew that eventually I wanted to re-gear and
Regear,
ramp
yeah.
up. And if I
Right.
completely shut down, it would have been a whole lot harder than as if I was just kind of slowly I was like on simmer, and then I put it up
Yeah,
and
turn it up
boiled
just
it
a little bit.
again.
Yep. And so your kid was 6 when you
Mhm.
decided to start home. So that's first grade,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So first grade all the way through high
The high
school.
school, yeah,
Yeah.
graduated both of them.
And you kept a business running in the
Mhm.
background,
Exactly.
and, grow, shrink, whatever, just adapt to
Mhm.
whatever, because as they get older, they're kind of more on their own also,
Exactly.
right? So I love that. Okay. So when, and you said they're 23, like early 20s now, mid
Yeah,
20s.
23 and 26.
Okay. So 6, 7 years ago, you started
Mhm.
to see that they're on kind of on their own motor for a while. Yes, they're still at home, and yes, they still need guidance, but it's not like you're teaching them all day long.
Right.
So is that when you started looking at the marketing gym and all of the businesses that are kind of evolved into what you have now? Or tell us how things started to change at that point.
So as they became more independent and I was able to have more time to focus on the business, I started looking at what I considered my brilliance, what would make the most sense for me to work
Yeah.
through. And that's when the marketing gym kind of came about. And I slowly started reconnecting with people and building some business. And of course, this all happened around COVID. So
Oh, I just did that math, of
yeah,
course, five
yeah.
six years
So
ago. Yes.
and I started doing virtual meetings, and I started doing a lot of virtual stuff when that happened. And I joined community groups because I knew community is a big part of what I do and who I
Yeah.
am. In fact, when I first decided to homeschool, I tell the story. I was literally at my computer crying at 3 in the morning, going,
Mm.
how am I going to do this? I was like really at the end of my rope. And my husband came down and found me. He said, don't worry, we'll make this happen. We'll work it out. And we found an association for homeschoolers. And that Friday, I went to a meeting and I found out that there were a lot of resources and there was a whole group of moms like me. So I just jumped in. So that was
Yeah.
my next community. So I realized then that community is a big part of who I am. So when I was ready to relaunch the business, I just kept finding new communities like Polka Dots and all
Yeah.
the different groups, because that's how I thrive, is part of community.
Well, and really, that's how people thrive, right? Not everyone realizes that that's the case. I mean, that literally was the answer for what you needed. It also was the answer for what I needed when I started to leave corporate and work for myself. And like, I lost my husband and I needed to learn how to navigate that grief. And, that's how we get through hard times, is with each other. Like, full stop,
Exactly.
period. That's just the truth. And, anyone who's like, oh no, I'm alone or whatever, I think they're really shortchanging what's possible for themselves and for the people in their world, because, humans are just, we're designed to be connected to other humans.
We were.
The only people who are true loners are, like, I always just say, it's the Unabomber, right? Look what happens when you decide to isolate yourself into nowhere. You become a crazy psychopath.
Well, and even if your community is only one or two people, you still need
Yeah, it
humans in
doesn't.
your life. It doesn't have to
Yes.
be a huge community. Now, I happen to be an extreme extrovert, so the more the merrier. But even if one or two people in your circle
Yes.
of influence can make a huge difference.
Right. Yeah. People who even are introverted, who are just like, I can't, like my husband, we always joke about, like, he's done too much peopling, is kind of the phrase that we use. And he's in 2 bands. He loves being around people. He just has to do it in short bursts of time.
And you got to rest in between. That's all.
And rest in between. Exactly. And recharge, and however feels good to you. I tend to be kind of on that fence these days, where I want to be with 50 people and then I want to hang out by myself for a little while and then I'm back at it. Right. Yeah. I love that. And, so to this day, we always see you, like I said, a lot on social media. You're at this meeting of 50 people, in this meeting of 40 people, in this meeting of 20 people, and then the one-on-one and one-on-one and one-on-one and one-on-one, right? Always connecting and always learning about others, helping to highlight them. And that's really how I see, we have similar superpowers. We want to be able to connect people together. You hear what they're doing. Oh, that rings a bell. I want to connect you to this other person. And so talk a little bit about your like networking process, since that's what you do with your business, helping people with their networking and how to build their relationships to grow their business. Talk a little bit about your personal networking process so people can get an idea of kind of what a day or what a week maybe in Lia's life looks like.
So a week in the life of Lia is filled with lots of meetings, but I am the business development arm of our business. So that's what I do. I love connecting one-on-one to, so for me, networking is just part of the equation. And most people, when they think of networking, they think of a big meeting room like BNI, which I'm a member of BNI for our painting business. But I also love polka dots and all the other groups that I'm in. And I try to do one-on-ones, because just because you show up to a room doesn't mean people are going to remember who you are and what you do. You get up, you do your 30-second commercial, and then the next person does it. And the person who listening already forgot your 30-second commercial if they're not really engaged. So my goal in networking, or my philosophy of networking, is that it has to be it has to be connection. It's not just showing up. Just because you're in a room doesn't mean you're going to get business. And if that's your focus, my goal is to teach people how to have real conversations, how to have real connection. First of all, you have to know who you are, what you're doing, and who you're doing it for, so that you're in the right room. So my goal is to teach you to be in the right rooms, saying the right things, and then having a plan so that when you start meeting with people, you're ready, you're prepared. And when you're prepared, no matter where you are, you can get up and say what you need to say. People are going to go, oh, that person knows what they're doing. Because when you walk in with confidence and clarity, everything else falls into place.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. Yeah, I have this feeling that, like, you walk in the room and people are like, oh, and they might like get a vibe, like an energy check, but it doesn't mean they're going to remember your name, what your business is. They might be like, oh, I saw her before, but they aren't going to remember the details. So you have to take it to the next level to get those details across the conversation. Yeah, I love that. Yeah. Awesome. You know, and as you're talking, and you and I have been connected for a number of years, and I've been following, I'm thinking to myself, how do I show up? What do I say when I'm in the room? And, you know, and what it is for me personally is variety. Like sometimes it's super clear and I'm just in that zone. And sometimes I hadn't maybe had a thought beforehand and it just kind of drops out of my mouth and it's not really clear and it's not really like intriguing.
Yeah.
Right. So yeah, the skills, that's the thing I think that a lot of people forget is that this is 100% a skill-based issue, right? Just because you're new in your business doesn't mean you can't learn the skill. Just because you've been doing your business for 30 years doesn't mean you can't hone the skill to have more clarity and conciseness and alluring attraction, right?
Well, it's interesting because most people who know me now cannot believe that there was a time when I was afraid to walk into a room and have a conversation.
Yeah,
And
I bet.
I was the person who's standing on the wall, not talking to anybody, waiting for the meeting to end so I could get out of there. And it took me quite a few years to learn how to do what I do. And it took somebody to mentor me and teach me how to do it. So I have a heart for people who are feeling that way, overwhelmed, not showing up at their amazing self, because everyone has that inside of them. It's just helping them find that.
Yep, absolutely. 100% agree. 100% agree. Yeah, the you know, the fact that they're there to represent their work and themselves, like what a leap of faith to just show up.
Yeah.
So just a little bit of tweaking gets you to not only show up, but show up in a way that people will remember, as opposed
Exactly.
to just be like, oh yeah, I don't remember meeting them, which, you know, that happens. And, you know, you have to find that way to just be like, you know, a strong handshake or, you know, a big, I don't know, a fun catchphrase or
Yeah,
whatever it is, as long as you know how you're showing up and can like plan for it,
exactly.
then you're ready to go. I love that. Okay, my friend. So what's next for Leah? Now, this is a podcast, of course. It's gonna be evergreen. We're here in the end, it's Halloween actually day 2025. I don't know when people are going to be listening to this, but let's say what's next. You know, in a year, maybe we'll listen back to it and see what
Ooh,
happened. What's
well,
next for Leah?
I'm excited. So I actually today I've been working on the outline of my book. So that is very exciting. I've got quite a bit already written for it. So my book is going to be hopefully coming out in the early part of next year, at least getting it to a publisher. And I am tweaking my speaking skills because I would like to do more presentations and talk to more people because I believe that I can help a lot of people. So that's my goal, is to get in front of more people to help them find their brilliance and share their brilliance.
Amazing, amazing, amazing. So anyone out there listening, if you know of someone who needs like the skills it takes to make relationships grow your business, Leah's your gal. This is who you want to talk to. Anywhere on the planet, maybe there's things even like for if you're sleeping when Leah never sleeps. She's awake from like 5 a.m. to midnight every day. But not hopefully not working 20 hours a day, but close, because I know that I see you at the end of 12, 14-hour days sometimes, and you're still, you know, mostly energetic and ready to go. But, you know, we were talking just the other day in a separate meeting about trying to reach new people, looking at new audiences. And so I'm really excited to see what that's going to look like. And so for people out there listening, if you think that you need to build relationships to grow your business or to make sales or to expand your reach and whatever that looks like, you're going to want to check out Lia. We're going to make sure all her contact information is in the show notes, of course. And she wants to help you build those relationships and have the skills that's needed to make it easy and fun.
Yes.
Because it is easy and fun once you have the confidence and clarity around it. Lia, I'm so thrilled. This was a great conversation because, you know, there's even things, even after knowing you for over 2 years now, that I learned today. So that's always exciting to me. I had someone who knows both of us listen to some past episodes of interviews of other people, and she's just like, I learned things that I didn't even know about these people, and you met them from me. So it's always fun to get to have the stories unfold with fresh ears and eyes. So I'm excited for that. Thank you so much for being on the podcast. And everyone out there, we will see you again on the Bold and Brilliant podcast. Thank you for listening to the Bold and Brilliant podcast. I'm your host, Tracie Root, and I want to invite you to check out the show notes, find out where you can connect with our guests, find out more about what I and the Gather community have to offer you, and be sure to subscribe to this podcast on your favorite platform. Thanks so much.